I'm going to start this week's segment on it with some absolutely breaking news. Breaking as in I saw Variety tweet this an hour ago. WGA talks to resume next week after month-long limbo. Talks between the Writers Guild of America and the major studios are set to resume next week as the sides seek to end the 4-month-old writer's strike. The WGA asked the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers on Wednesday for a meeting, the Studio Alliance said in a meeting. On Wednesday, September 13th, the WGA reached out to the AMPTP and asked for a meeting to move negotiations forward, the AMPTP said. We have agreed and are working to schedule a meeting next week. Every member company of the AMPTP is committed and eager to reach a fair deal and to working together with the WGA to end the strike. The two sides were last at the negotiating table on August 18th. Several entertainment CEOs met with a group of WGA leaders at the Lux Sunset Boulevard Hotel on August 22nd, but there have been no talks since then. Each side has maintained that the other side owes them a response, which has kept the talks frozen in place for the last 3 weeks. So if we are to take the AMPTP at their word on it, it looks like the WGA blinked first. I don't know what this means for what the WGA is coming to the table with. I'm a little nervous here, but I know that the WGA had been like, look, you gave your offer, we countered, we're still waiting on you to come back. And, AMPTP was just like, what? We're waiting for you to come back. So both of them have been saying it was the other person. And if we are to take the AMPTP at their word, it looks like the WGA blinked first. And I hope that doesn't harm them in the negotiations, but we'll see what goes. It is good to see movement on this front. It's also, we have to keep in mind, we haven't heard anything from the WGA on this. This is the AMPTP themselves announcing this, so I don't know what's going on. We'll see how that goes, but in happier news, breaking, Marvel Studios visual effects workers unanimously voted in favor of unionizing with IATSE in a labor board election. This marks the first time a unit of solely VFX workers has unionized with IATSE since VFX was pioneered nearly a half-century ago. They did it! Unanimously, they voted. They are in IATSE now. They are unionized. They are the first unionized VFX workers in Hollywood. Let's go! If I had a soundboard, I would be hitting it right now with some applause. I should probably get something like that set up, but this is great news. And that's cute that they're using the little Marvel fists. Is that Daredevil's fist? Kind of looks like Daredevil's fist. With Walt Disney Picture VFX staffers already voting in their own labor board election, we anticipate this is the first of many organizing victories within VFX. Interested in client-side and vendor-side VFX workers should reach out to union organizers at vfxunion.org. Nice. We couldn't have superheroes flying, battling, morphing, or anything without visual effects. This isn't about any single project or studio. This is only the beginning. So this is great news on the front. This isn't, strike news specifically, but it is good Hollywood union news. But in terms of, now that I've got that, happy news in the way, we'll see what happens there. We'll see how this impacts Marvel long-term. Most of the VFX work that Marvel does is offshore effects houses, so those wouldn't be impacted by this. This VFX union is specifically the people who are on site, so they're like the ones working specifically with like setting up things for filming it, like on the green screen and stuff like that. They're the in-house VFX team, and I think it's like 18 people. So it's not a huge group of people, but it's a start. And with that, happy bit of news out of the way, let's get back into it. So if you remember, actually just Monday, I was covering this. Drew Barrymore is resuming her talk show despite the WGA strike still going on. Now, Drew Barrymore, even though she's a member of SAG-AFTRA has a number of different contracts with like different aspects of the entertainment industry, and so talk shows are not currently on strike. So since the Drew Barrymore show is a talk show, having a talk show itself is not in violation of the SAG-AFTRA strike, and so technically that can resume. Except that talk shows, they don't just spring out of the ether. The topics have to be come up with. They have to be written. You have to have monologues. You have writers for that. And so the Drew Barrymore show is a WGA show, and they're starting back up without their writers because the writers are still on strike. And I covered how they kicked out a couple of people who wore a WGA pin to one of the tapings. And the day after I covered that, we had this. Monday, 2 Drew Barrymore audience members were kicked out for wearing WGA buttons, A show spokesperson expressed regret over the incident. And Tuesday, audiences leaving the Drew taping told us their bags and purses were searched by security. All WGA buttons were confiscated. So they're going all in on this. This is not just Drew Barrymore has like this, aesthetic of being a very kind and warm and uwu small bean in the industry. But her team is going through and stealing people's WGA buttons so that doesn't show up on screen because it'll make them look bad. Valhalla Vidya says she's going to use scab writers, doesn't she? Well, that's the thing. Even if she doesn't have any other writers on staff and she writes all the segments herself, that makes her the scab because she would be doing the writing for her writers. She's not a member of the WGA. It's all bad. And unfortunately, Drew, I worry that you're doing this is being used to be like have a friendly face on scabbing, because we're seeing this narrative of, oh, well, these strikes have gone on so long that it's hurting the other team members, so it's time for us to all just get back to work. And before I get into the other person who is resuming their talk show amid the strike, we do have one more bit of information about response to Drew Barrymore choosing to resume her show. The National Book Foundation. The National Book Awards is an evening dedicated to celebrating the power of literature and the incomparable contributions of writers to our culture. In light of the announcement that the Drew Barrymore show will resume production, the National Book Foundation has rescinded Miss Barrymore's invitation to host the 74th National Book Awards ceremony. Our commitment is to ensure that the focus of the awards remains on celebrating writers and books, and we are grateful to Miss Barrymore and her team for their understanding in this situation. Yeah, so she is seeing backlash, rightfully so, for these decisions, and it will continue. But as I was saying, and I brought this up because I was about to move on to the next topic, but I just remembered this one because I saw the tab. Bill Maher just tweeted this out yesterday. Real time is coming back, unfortunately. Yep, I agree. Okay, that's it. No. Yeah, so real time is coming back, unfortunately. Sans writers are writing. It has been 5 months, and it is time to bring people back to work. Oh, you're not a writer, Bill. You're not the one who gets to decide when the WGA can end their strike. That's on them. The writers have important issues that I sympathize with. We're gonna find out later that's bullshit. And hope they are addressed to their satisfaction, but they are not the only people with issues, problems, and concerns. This is the opposite of solidarity. Now, I will say I don't expect anything better from Bill Maher. Bill Maher is a reactionary piece of shit. So, of course, he's going to do this. And honestly, I think it's a real shame that Drew Barrymore is doing this too, because having the face of, the scabbing be Bill Maher instead of Drew Barrymore, that's a much better optical thing, because Drew Barrymore has the perception of being such a kind and friendly person. Bill Maher has the perception of being a fucking asshole, because he is. Despite some assistance from me, much of the staff is struggling mightily. We all were hopeful this would come to an end after Labor Day, but that day has come and gone, and there still seems to be nothing happening. Well, they are coming back to the table next week. We'll see how that goes. I love my writers. I am one of them, but I'm not prepared to lose an entire year and see so many below-the-line people suffer so much. So below-the-line people, that usually just means people who aren't top credited, but like, this right here. This is the divide and conquer strategy. Your strike that's hurting the little guy. No, actually, the little guy is getting hurt by the studios not accepting the reasonable demands of the writers. I will honor the spirit of the strike by not doing a monologue, a desk piece, new rules, or editorial, the written pieces that I am so proud of on Real Time, and I'll say it up front to the audience, the show I will be doing without my writers will not be as good as our normal show, full stop. But the heart of the show is an off-the-cuff panel discussion that aims to cut through the bullshit and predictable partisanship, and that will continue. The show will not disappoint. Well, I mean, that's not possible. The show's always disappointing. So it sounds like his show is just going to be the panel. We'll see. I'm not going to watch it, so I don't know how I'll see, but maybe somebody will take a look and see if he holds true to his promises that he is, in fact, not doing any writing on this talk show whatsoever. Something tells me that's really not going to be possible. Somebody did a very funny edit of this that I just want to share. It's not really news, but I appreciated it. I retweeted it, so here we go. Real time is coming back, unfortunately. We all were hopeful this would come to an end, but I love to see people suffer. And I'll say it up front to the audience, the show will not be good, full stop. The heart of the show is bullshit, and that will continue. The show will disappoint. Valhalla says, Drew having a total rich white woman moment? Yeah, unfortunately. Now, last week I covered a Variety story that was talking about Bill Maher, his opinions on the writer's strike. I only covered it to point out why is Variety paying attention to Bill Maher's opinion, which, I tie back to Variety and The Hollywood Reporter and Deadline are all owned by one company that is a member of the AMPTP, so they have a financial incentive to promote stories where, like, you have one member of the WGA who's got their concerns with how things are being run, or a crank like Bill Maher talking about how the writers are being unreasonable. Of course, they're gonna boost those stories wider. But now that Bill Maher is bringing back his show, Crossing the Picket Line, let's take a look and see what it was that he was saying on his podcast.
The strike is a perfect example. Those guys would never go back. This strike could go on till the 24th century. They would stay out.
Yeah, it's not going to the 24th century, Bill. It's been 5 months and you feel like it's going to go on forever. Like that's absurd.
I feel for my writers. I love my writers. I'm one of my writers. Yeah. But there's a big other side to it, and a lot of people are being hurt besides them. A lot of people who don't make as much money as them in this bipartisan world we have, where you're just in one camp or the other. There's no in between. You're either for the strike, like they're fucking Che Guevara out there, like this is Cesar Chavez lettuce picking strike, or you're with Trump.
No, come on, that's absurd. It's about having solidarity with the workers because they are the ones being aggrieved against by the exploitation of the Hollywood studio. There are people in SAG-AFTRA who voted for Trump who are still, and I guess SAG-AFTRA, I guess also the WGA, who voted for Trump, who are still wanting a fair deal here.
Like there's no different. There's only two camps, and it's much more complicated than that.
It is, but I do feel like there is a lot of the points, a lot of the grievances I kind of agree with.
I do understand that they're getting screwed a bit by the streamers, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a change, and you either, it's like anything that is, I believe in free market, but I also believe in trust and then verify, right?
What does that mean?
Meaning, you don't trust, like the reason, I mean, Zaslav made $400 million, and I think they're looking for 80 million for, it's like they're gonna, you leave a kid in front of a bowl of marshmallows, they're gonna eat the marshmallows. It's not like...
I'm not sure what he means with the marshmallow thing, but yeah, I feel like Gaffigan's doing his best. I don't know a whole lot about Gaffigan's politics here. But I do know that his stand-up, he tends to keep it fairly apolitical. It's mostly just about food. But he seems like he's giving some pushback on what Maher is saying here.
Some grand thing.
Well, I don't know. What you're saying, they're only asking for $80 million?
Well, I'm saying
they're asking for a lot of things.
They're asking for a lot of things.
Like kooky. Like what I find objectionable about...
What's kooky? What are they asking for that's kooky?
The philosophy of the strike, it seems to be they have really morphed a long way from 2007 strike, where they kind of believe that you're owed a living as a writer, and you're not. This is show business.
You're not owed a living as a writer, is what he's saying. Okay, let me go back to that. Remember, this is what he called a kooky idea.
What I find objectionable about the philosophy of the strike, it seems to be they have really morphed a long way from 2007 strike, where they kind of believe that you're owed a living as a writer, and you're not. This is show business. This is a make or miss league, and not everybody.
You don't think that
this isn't about like if you get a gig or not, dude. Like this isn't just about writers, you know, not being able to get gigs. I mean, now granted, the increased writer room size, yeah, that does create more jobs. That is good. But also, like, it's not just that the writers aren't making it in Hollywood, it's that they can't afford to make it in Hollywood because they're not getting paid enough, because the studios are doing everything in their power to make writing like a less than minimum wage position, a less than minimum wage career. What the fuck do you mean? Oh, they're not owed a living. They're owed enough of a living that they can write and help create the things that you require to operate your industry. So that's just that is a little excerpt from his podcast where he said that writers aren't owed a living, where he seems to be conflating the whole, like, it's true that not every writer is owed a writing gig in like a broad sense of the way that the entertainment industry works, that just because you've got an idea doesn't mean you just automatically get to make a TV show. But what the fuck does he mean they're not owed a living? If they're working a job in Hollywood, they should be able to pay their bills. They should be able to, you know, raise a family. That's what they're asking for. And Hollywood is taking every single opportunity every time there is a massive shift in the media landscape, when you've got, you know, the move from TV to streaming. The systems have changed and Hollywood is like, oh, this part isn't covered by the previous contract, so we can screw them out of it and keep more of our own money. And Bill Maher thinks that trying to counter that, trying to get back to a position where they used to be, where it used to pay them a lot better, and where writers' rooms used to be a more regular thing. I mean, like the minimum writer room requirements, that's just trying to codify something that used to just be industry standard, and now the studios are trying to do away with it so that they can pay writers like day rates for just like punching up a script here and there rather than actually giving them a job. And this asshole is, you know, bringing his show back without writers. I wouldn't be surprised if none of those writers want to come back to his show afterward, because he certainly does not have their backs. And honestly, I wonder how well he is paying his writers. Although then again, I have no idea what kind of mind it would attract to, you know, work for a guy like Bill Maher. But holy shit, what a scumbag. Hey, thanks for watching. I'm trying to get my channel monetized, so your view means a lot. Don't forget to toss me a like and subscribe and ring the bell. I stream every Monday and Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific, so catch me live and join in on the convo. You can find all my socials in the description below, and thank you to all my patrons, with a special shout out to Piftle Cakes and Ryan D. Your support means the world. Catch you next time.